Hey everyone, it's Matt with Redline Studios in New York, here with another Thursday Thought. Thursday Thoughts are where I explore film and television topics and give you my own personal take on them. It's also where I answer your direct questions on any topic, film or television related. So, if you're a young student or maybe an older person looking to make a career change and you have a question for me that you think I can be helpful with or I can answer, you can write to me and I'll explore your topic here. Today's Thursday Thought is about freelance versus staff. As someone who has worked steadily in film and television for the past 25 years, there's always been this ongoing debate. Is it better to work freelance as an independent contractor or as a staff member at a place like a network, production company, or post house? For most of my career, I chose freelance. I owned and operated my own company instead of going on someone else's staff. And honestly, this is one of those cases where the grass is always greener on the other side. Everyone is different, but I'll explain why I mostly stayed a freelancer and a gun for hire type creative. The number one reason is freedom. When I hear people say things like, I have to ask my boss for time off, or I need to use my vacation days, that feels completely foreign to me and like nails on a chalkboard. As an artist, trying to confine me as a person just doesn't line up with how I operate. Now, don't get me wrong. As I worked as a freelancer and for myself, I worked my ass off. There were years where I was doing 12, 13, even 16-hour days, 7 days a week sometimes. But that was still by my own design and by my own choice. I like being in control. The day I ask for a boss's permission to take time off is the day I stop becoming an artist. Freelancing let me create my own schedule, work in bunches, take breaks when I wanted, and design my life around my work instead of the other way around. Another big benefit is rates, especially as an editor. Once you go staff, your weekly rate gets diluted and justified by benefits, health insurance, and the promise of job security. But what always felt strange to me was this. Companies would offer me a staff contract, and then I'd decline. And then they'd come back to me with a freelance deal for the same length of time, but often with a much better day rate. Part of this process is also how you get paid. When you work freelance and own your own company, you can often command a higher day rate because the company paying you is not paying an individual, but a company. A company is already handling payroll and taxes internally. So, if they pay you as a person or an individual, they usually have to put you on their payroll and deduct personal taxes, which costs them more money administratively. So, structurally, it often makes more sense for them to pay a higher freelance rate to a company rather than a lower staff rate to a person. In my opinion, a skill has value whether you use it one day or 12 months in a row. Knowing your worth and knowing the standard rates for your craft is everything. Freelancing also gave me variety. One month I'm cutting a documentary, the next month it's branded content, and then after that, maybe it's a narrative film or a reality show. That constant change forces you to grow as a crew member, and you don't get comfortable or stale. Every new job brings new problems to solve and gives you new skill sets to learn. And it builds your personal brand. People hire you, not your company. Your reputation becomes your resume, and I absolutely experienced this firsthand. When people started to reach out to our company for editing jobs, they didn't want just anyone behind the mouse, they wanted yours truly. You're not an editor at Company X, you're the editor who can fix anything, or the producer who gets it done. That identity has very long-term power. There's also a psychological part to this, and it's ownership. When you land a client or negotiate a higher rate, that win is yours. It just hits differently when it comes from your own hustle. Now, let's be honest about the downsides of freelance. There is no safety net. If work dries up, that's on you. No paid sick days, no paid vacation, no HR department. Thank God, because I would have probably been fired a million times over the years for having no filter and just being completely open and transparent. You have to budget your own time off and build in your own cushion. And this can be one of those cases where it's good and bad at the same time. You can literally work yourself into a walking pneumonia, which I've done multiple times throughout my career, especially when I was younger, and I just thought I could go, go, go. But as you get older, you start to realize quality is better than quantity, and sometimes less is more. You can get more out of a good, solid 8-hour workday instead of a mediocre 12-hour one where you push yourself too far. Your work life balance can also get very messy. When you are good at what you do, people keep calling. Saying yes might mean money, whereas saying no means risk, and a risk of a client not returning after one no. It's very easy to also get burnt out because you never know when the next slow period is coming. So you have this constant need to say yes to everything. And I'll be honest, it can get a little lonely because when you are that freelancer and gun for hire, you are always walking in as an outsider onto someone else's existing team. You don't always build long-term coworker relationships, and you're constantly resetting socially and professionally, learning the new tone and culture of different production and post-production environments. Now, let's talk about being on staff. The biggest benefit is consistency. It's guaranteed work unless you do something crazy and get yourself fired. But there is stability there that is rare, especially in this creative industry. There's also something to be said about mental bandwidth. You're not the one invoicing, chasing checks, calling up clients that owe you money, hunting your next gig. You can focus purely on the craft. Staff jobs also give you access, many times to better gear, bigger budgets, and long-term collaborations with the same people, where often that creative experience can grow and culture further. You develop a shorthand with your team, which can make work faster and smoother. There's also the hope of moving up the corporate ladder. And yes, even still in the creative field, those things do exist. Promotion, raises, bonuses. That corporate structure can be great if it's what you want. There can also be a mentorship opportunity and a long-term creative development instead of a constant trial by fire. But staff does have its downsides too. There's creative confinement. You work in their style, in their brand, with their system, and over time, that can really start to limit your range, and you start to get creatively handcuffed. Some of this safety is also a bit of an illusion because it might feel safe, but then budgets change, management changes, or the show you're on gets canceled. And I have had that very experience happen where I turned down one show to take on another, and then 3 months in, that show gets canceled by the network, and then you're sitting there going, I wonder what would have happened if I would have taken that other gig instead of this one. But hindsight is always 20/20. It does make you start to realize, though, that security is relative. And there is a rate ceiling. As staff, your income becomes capped by titles and raises. As freelance, your ceiling is whatever the market will pay you and how good you are at negotiating. I remember when I first started out as an editor, I charged a certain day rate, and then at some point, I really didn't want to do it anymore. So I doubled that day rate thinking people would not hire me. But as a freelancer, I could make that risk, and guess what? It paid off. Not only did I get that day rate, but 2 months later, I doubled it again and still got that rate. So there is that give and take play that you have as a freelancer that you really can't bring into the picture as a staffer. At the end of the day, freelance versus staff is not about which one is better. It is about which one fits your personality, your goals, and your current state of living. If you value freedom, control, and variety, freelance might be the better choice. If you value structure, stability, and predictability, staff might be the better lane to drive in. Neither path is safer, they're just riskier in different ways. The real question is, do you want security from a company or security from the faith in your own abilities? I hope you enjoyed this Thursday thought. If you have a follow-up question about this point of discussion and you want to reach out, you can do so by emailing me at insideredlinestudios@gmail.com, and be sure to like and follow our social media pages to see more future Thursday Thought topics explored.